Hey everyone, this is MusicTechHelpGuy, and in this video I'll show you how to create 8-bit NES style music in Logic Pro 10. This is incredibly simple to do, and if you're a big Nintendo nerd like me, this can be a really cool musical tool for a lot of different applications. So first, let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. So the trick to getting the music to sound like an 8-bit NES game is understanding the sound elements of the original NES sound chip. The crazy thing is that all of the NES soundtracks were composed with just 4 synthesized sounds and occasionally a really basic lo-fi sample channel. So the NES sound chip had 2 square or pulse waves with adjustable pulse widths. These were typically used for mid-range instruments and leads. A triangle wave, which was typically used for the bass, and then a noise generator that could be filtered in different ways. This is where the drums, percussion, and some sound effects would come from. And then additionally, there was a 5th channel that would store some sampled sounds, but these would vary from game to game, so I'm not going to cover that in this video. First, you need to start with a synthesizer that has your main 4 oscillator waveforms, so sine, triangle, square, and sawtooth. Really, we're only going to be using triangle and square wave, but you want to use a synthesizer that has an adjustable pulse width like oscillator 2 in the ES2. You also want to make sure that you're using a synthesizer that has a noise generator as well. So I find the ES2 easiest to do this with. So if you're using the ES2, the first thing to do is just turn everything off. Get rid of all your modulation routers, turn off the filter, turn off vector mode, and just use oscillator number 2, the pulse wave here. Now, like I said, the first 2 voices were both pulse waves, and the pulse width could be adjusted. So if you wanted a deeper tone, you could use like a 50-50 pulse width. So this is the top option here. If you wanted a thinner tone, you could pull this up a bit. It gives it more of a metallic quality as well. And you'll hear in a lot of the NES games, the high lead will be more of a metallic, thinner tone, and then there might be a second harmony underneath it, or a counter melody or something like that with a fuller square tone. So I'm going to pull this up to the thin up pulse. And then I'll just copy this over to another instrument track. And for this one, I'm just going to pull the pulse width down so it's got more of a full quality to it. So this is what I'm going to use for my main lead and sort of my counter arpeggio melody here. So I've copied this same setting over to my bass track, and instead of square wave, I'm going to put this on triangle wave, so I'll use this for the bass. If you want to get rid of that pop on the front end of the notes, you can go up to this menu here and make sure this is on soft. This will give it a soft oscillator start. I actually kind of like it with the click on the front, so I'm going to put this actually on hard, and this guarantees that there's a hard click on the front of every single note. Again, just trying to make it sound as retro as possible. For the percussion, I'm going to turn off oscillators 1 and 2 and just use oscillator 3 on noise. So this generates white noise. Again, nothing else is on here. And what I need to do is I first need to shorten the envelope, the volume envelope down here, so that this can sound more like a percussion instrument. So first I'm going to make this sound like a snare drum. So what I'm going to do is pull the sustain all the way down. and then pull the decay time down to taste. So you can actually get two sounds here. If you press and hold the key, it decays out a bit, but if you quickly press and release it, it gives you a quicker decay. So you've actually got two different sounds in there. So there's a little bit of variation. To make this truly sound like a snare drum, what I'm going to do is turn on the filter. I'm going to use the low pass filter over here. So I'm going to pull the blend all the way over to the right. And what I'm going to do is filter out some of the high end. And you can also try pulling up the resonance to give it a bit more presence at the cutoff frequency. I think that works out pretty good. All right, so next I've copied this over to my kick track. And what I'm going to do is use the first filter here instead of the second filter, because the first filter allows us to choose between low pass, high pass, peak, band reject, and band pass filters. So what I'm going to do is use the band pass filter and try to find a spot in the low range that's got a bit of more woody, knocky sound. I know it's hard to do with white noise, but try to find the best tone that sounds the closest to a kick drum. And you can also pull up the resonance. Now I find with the kick drum, I end up having to add the gain plugin to pull up the volume a bit because the noise is so quiet when you filter it, just to give it a bit more presence. And I'm going to pull the decay down a bit. You can also try using the low pass filter for a warmer kick sound. I think I prefer the band pass. So let's hear the kick and snare together. For hi-hats and cymbals, we want to have all high-frequency information. So I'm going to use the high-pass filter, roll the cutoff up pretty far, I'll pull the resonance down, and I'm going to decrease the decay time. So that's going to end up being my closed hi-hat sound. Then I'll copy this over to another track, and this will become my open hi-hat sound. So what I'll do is pull up the decay time. And for the crash cymbal, I've duplicated this over, and I'm going to pull up the decay time even more. So for this one, if you want this to sound like a sustained crash cymbal, you're going to have to make sure that the note is longer. So let's hear what all of the drums sound like now. And you can go in and tweak those filter settings to customize the drum sounds. Let's hear what everything sounds like now. Now, one last thing you can do is you can add the Bit Crusher plugin to some of these tracks, and I use the 8-bit classic preset. And what this does is it just gives it a bit more bite, but it doesn't really sound great with all of the instruments. I find that with the bass, the triangle, it doesn't sound too good, and with the kick, it doesn't sound too great either. But it helps to round out the hi-hats a bit as well. And overall, just helps to give it a bit more of an 8-bit lo-fi sound. All right, there you go. That's how you can create 8-bit NES style music in Logic Pro 10. I'll leave a link in the video description below where you can download this exact same session for free if you want to start off with some 8-bit sounds or if you want to work along with me. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. You can also check me out on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and if you'd like to make a monthly contribution to the channel, you can also check me out at patreon.com/MusicTechHelpGuy. Thanks for the support, and thanks for watching.